Did you know one of the top reasons that people move to Charlotte, North Carolina is because of our weather, even our winter weather? So today we are going to talk about what winter is really like living here in Charlotte, North Carolina, because there's so much more to our winter than just the temperature change and the occasional snowfall. There's a whole vibe here that changes when it gets cool. And it impacts everything from what we do on a daily basis to even our real estate market. And there's one thing about winters in Charlotte that a lot of people might not know. So let's get into it. So let's start off with an overview of what to expect in terms of the climate here in Charlotte during the winter. So on average, our days stay within the mid-50s throughout most of the season, and we get down to the mid-30s at nighttime. Occasionally, you will get a couple of nights that are below freezing, but it's not too common. And one of the best parts about our winter is that it's actually pretty short. So summer ends around September. Occasionally, you'll still have some hot days up until Halloween, but by the time November rolls around, you're gonna start getting those cold, brisk days, especially in the morning and night. Now, our colder days do come in pretty gradually. It's not like you wake up and bam, it's freezing. You really do get eased into it. But by December, we're fully into what I like to call a Charlotte style winter. It's going to be really mild and really manageable. Now, the coldest month is going to be January with highs in the 50s and lows in the 30s. And you see that the temperature starts warming up by the end of February. March and April can still be a little chilly, but it's not that bad. And as far as the weather conditions, our days really are a mix of cloudy overcast days and sunny days. Like right now it's in the low 50s, but it's really sunny, so it's not too bad outside. But there is a really interesting aspect of winter in Charlotte that a lot of people might not know. And that's that on the rare occasion that we get snow on the ground, our whole city shuts down. Not just schools and government buildings, but we're talking workplaces, grocery stores, banks, almost everything just shuts down. So if you're coming from one of those colder states up north or in the Midwest, you might think that we are absolutely insane. When we get the slightest snowfall, you would think that we're in the Arctic Circle. There is a reason for our extreme response. So because snow is so infrequent, our city just doesn't have the equipment or resources to handle snow and ice. It's just safer and more cost effective to limit us being on the road. Simply put, it's just a risk versus cost analysis. We don't have enough salt trucks or snow plows to adequately clear the roads. So unlike places up north, there's quite a contrast to how we respond to snowfall. We shut down. So typically here in Charlotte, we really love our snow days. And it's not just the novelty of having snow and getting to play outside. It's also like being a kid again because you get a snow day. So now that we have the climate covered, what is it really like living here when it's cold? What is our day-to-day life like? Especially when you're comparing our winters to some of the colder states or even comparing us to some of the warmer regions. So if you're new here, my name is Milena. I'm a local Charlotte realtor and I work with a lot of people who relocate to Charlotte from different parts of the country. I myself have also lived all over the country as well. So over the years, I've learned what people tend to experience to be different from living in Charlotte compared to other places. So a lot of my clients relocate to Charlotte from up north, and they will tell you they love not having to shovel snow. You don't need winter tires, snow clothes. You don't need to remove ice from your car in the morning. Now, I will say, in my opinion, it's still cold enough in the morning that you'll want to warm up your car before driving, but I'm also a huge baby when it comes to cold. So if you're one of those people who wear shorts in 50-degree weather, you'll be fine. You'll be driving with your top down. But those basic winter life annoyances that you experience living in colder areas are going to be pretty minimal here in Charlotte. And if you're coming from some of the warmer states like California or Florida, there will be some adjusting. Now, just a quick side note, I came here from Miami and I love experiencing the season changes. It is such a treat because it's enough of a season change to where you get your fix, but the weather isn't extreme enough to where you become absolutely miserable. It's really perfect. But if you've never lived in a state that has a winter, you will have to learn a few things like I did. So in Charlotte, we still somewhat winterize our homes. It's not as intense as up north. You really don't need snow shovels or generators. I don't even think we own an ice scraper. But you can get those random cold snaps here. So if the temperature does drop below freezing, even though it's rare, you will want to make sure that you have water leaking from your faucet so it doesn't bust your pipes, especially if you're going on vacation, because even if you leave and it's 60 degrees, you can get a cold front coming out like that. So it's just a good idea to be precautious. You'll want to make sure that your gutters are cleared out so they don't get stopped up from leaves and ice. Also going to want to make sure your furnace and heat pump is serviced before winter starts. But overall, it's pretty minimal. You don't need to do too much to get your home prepared for winter. And a huge bonus is that our grass doesn't grow when it's really cold outside. So we save hundreds of dollars on lawn care during the winter. It is so nice. And as far as your winter wardrobe, you're not going to need huge snow jackets. You don't need thermal wear, and you really don't even need gloves. I think I've worn my snow boots one time in the last decade. But you will still need to have a change of wardrobe during the winter. So you'll want to have sweaters and boots and a decent winter jacket. And I was actually really excited when I moved here because I was able to actually have a winter wardrobe. But you don't need to go overboard. You don't need to do anything crazy. It's pretty minimal. So for the most part, you're just going to want to layer because the weather can be pretty sporadic throughout the day. Like this morning, it was 20 degrees and freezing, and then by the afternoon, June, it was 50 and super sunny. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you can just peel off those layers. So now let's talk about what people do during the winter in Charlotte. So personally, I do think that our city gets a little sleepy during the colder months. Life doesn't fully stop, but you will notice that it does slow down a bit. And even though our winter is pretty mild, it's not like Florida where outdoor life just goes on year round. You won't have as much outdoor dining or rooftop happy hours. The city just becomes a little less lively. And typically throughout the year, we have a lot of regular outdoor events like River Jam, which is a really popular weekly free concert. And a lot of those things that are, regular warm weather occurrences obviously stop during the season. But also the sun starts setting around 5:30 in the beginning of the season. So it's just too cold and too dark for outdoor activities like going to the park or walking the greenways. A lot of our outdoor activities are relegated to the weekends when you have more usable daylight. But there's still a lot to do. So we have loads of museums, theaters, arcade bars, and you can even catch a Charlotte Hornets game or a Panthers game. We have outdoor ice skating rinks at the Whitewater Center, and one even opens up in the middle of Uptown. It's really fun because you get this big, beautiful view of the city. And even though most of our city's annual festivals and events do happen during the warmer months, we still have some fun winter festivals and even some Christmas and holiday markets as well. But one of the biggest perks of living in Charlotte is our proximity to the mountains. So if you want that real snowy winter experience, it is only a very short drive. You can go skiing, snowboarding, any kind of winter sport is really in close proximity. And if you're just tired of the winter altogether, you can drive a few hours south and be at the beach. So everything is really within reach. Now let's talk about the real estate market during the winter months here in Charlotte. So last year was a little bit of an anomaly since rates were totally out of control, but typically you're going to see more listings are going to start hitting the market around April, with our busy season being the end of spring and summer. And if we look back at the numbers of new listings between June 2023 and December 2023, you're going to see about a 5% decrease in new listings in December. And if we go back to 2022, you'll see about a 10% decrease in new listings in the winter months compared to the summer months. And the home buying and selling process is a little different in the winter as well compared to the rest of the year. So for sellers, the plus side is that most buyers looking during those cold winter holiday months are usually pretty serious buyers. And with such few listings on the market, you won't have much competition. But there are some downsides. So there are a lot of holidays during the winter months, and a lot of sellers do find it difficult to navigate the showings around having family in town or being out of town themselves or even having decorations up. And there's also the element of curb appeal. So photos sell homes, and a home with lush, beautiful spring vegetation is going to photograph a lot better than a house with barren trees and no curb appeal. But if you're selling your home, you're going to likely be buying one too, and there are some serious benefits to buying a house during the winter. And there's some downsides. Now, as far as the downsides, if you are on the buy side, if you are working a standard 9 to 5, showings can be a little bit of a pain. So most people don't want to see a house in the dark. So a lot of my clients will do showings for lunch breaks, or they'll do weekend showings so they can actually get a better idea of what the house looks like and the neighborhood looks like during the daylight. Also, since there aren't as many listings during the winter months, you're not going to have as many homes to choose from. And here in Charlotte, we already are lacking in our housing supply. Now, on the flip side, as a buyer, you won't be experiencing as many bidding wars, and there'll likely be less multiple offers compared to the spring and summer when people are trying to buy and close on a house before the new school year. And another benefit of buying in the winter months are builder incentives. So I love selling new construction homes during the winter. I have found builders are a little bit more friendly with giving out incentives, especially right now when the market's a bit slower. And I actually just had a builder pay for a significant rate decrease for one of my buyers, and it was really big. So there are definitely benefits to buying in the wintertime. So there you have it, what you need to know about living in Charlotte during the winter. If you have any questions about buying a house, selling a house, or relocating to Charlotte, please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's all my info. It's also down below, including my calendar link, and I look forward to connecting.